Good evening, people, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Beneath Your Skin. This is Gaia, being bored out of my mind, and doesn't feeling Christmassy at all. I think it's because of the year we barely survived, at least for now. At least for now, we still have 20 something days before this year is over, so I won't jinx it for myself, or at least I will try not to. But hey, hello, my dear. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's been quite a relaxing Sunday. Obviously, Britain is doing it's grey and it's raining, which means it's definitely winter, which I suppose could be Christmassy, since our Christmases are generally grey and wet. But yeah, it's not too bad.
Well, at least something. At least something. I will take the small victory and be happy with that.
Yeah.
Today we are going to talk about the movie called Child's Play 3. First of all, I want to say something. I can understand now, watching it for the first time. Yes, I admit it. Mea culpa. I never watched it before. I can understand why someone has used it as an alibi to justify an act of extreme violence. But, in my humble opinion, as someone who writes for the cinema, who writes for the TV, and who wrote for video games before that, I want to say this once again. No, it's not the movie's fault. It's not the video game's fault. It's not the book's fault. If people commit violence after watching or reading or playing something, it's not because of what they read or watched or played. It's because something was already wrong in these people's life. I am not saying this because this is my job. I'm saying this because I grew up watching horror movies. I grew up reading Stephen King's books. And I never went outside and killed people. I just wanted to say this because this movie pissed me off a lot. It's a 90s movie. So it has inside all those themes and all those subjects we were used to see on screen during the 90s. It's probably, at least for now, the harsher movie of the whole franchise. But not just because Chucky still is a psychopathic self. What really hits you hard in this third movie is that most of the time you don't need a demon, a possessed doll, or whatever to create chaos and tragedy in life. Humans are more than enough to do that by themselves. So in this movie, yes, Chucky is still against Andy. And in this movie, Chucky has a lot of fun killing people everywhere, basically. But it's not Chucky the worst villain in this movie.
Mm-hmm. I
The
agree.
worst villains in these movies are the bullies that Andy has to face in the military school where he's shipped at the beginning of the movie. The worst villains are the children bullying other children, the adult allowing it to happen, and the adults bullying those children. Chucky is almost in the
Welcomed
background.
presence, I felt. I was like, I'm glad Chucky's here because I don't like anybody. Chucky needs to sort these people out.
Exactly. let's be honest, Chucky is almost in the background because whatever he does, humans do worse. As I said, I understand why it was used as an alibi to justify those children you were telling me about torturing and killing their friend.
So there's a whole lot I will reveal about that. I did my research for it.
The dynamic, for what I know, it's the same that we see on screen, in which there are older boys with a higher rank inside this military school who really preys on the younger, the smaller, the most vulnerable children. Wait 2 more years and enroll in the real army. But military schools, we don't have them here, and I don't understand what they are
No.
even about. I mean,
I have so much to say about this film. Not a lot of it's good. I mean, I will praise the animatronics, the puppeteering, Chucky's one-liners. He had some good one-liners. Brad Dourif's performance. Any time that Chucky was just allowed to be child's play Chucky, I just wish the entire film had a different setting. I wish it had a completely different story. Even down to the fact that the subtitle on this one is Child's Play 3 Look Who's Stalking. Which obviously, this film came out at a similar time to Look Who's Talking. But if you're going to make a pun based on another film, you like the Look Who's Talking films, which I found hilarious, but I bet if I rewatched them, I would probably cringe. But I remember being young and loving the Look Who's Talking movies. If you're going to make a film called Look Who's Stalking, make it about stalking. Make it, like, live up to the pun and the subtitle. Because Chucky's been stalking from the beginning, so it's not a new thing that he's stalking Andy. But he doesn't really stalk in this film. He just kind of turns up and causes chaos, which is what you wanted from him. There is so much about this movie. I can rant about so many things. For a start, I'm British. I don't get military school. I thought military school was somewhere where you sent disturbed teenagers to try and straighten them out, and if it doesn't work, they go straight to the military. So I'm like, why are there like 7 and 8-year-olds in military school? Like, why are they just not in normal school? Like, isn't military school just going to mess with their heads? So when they get to, like, other ages and they go out and meet real people, they're all like, yo, drills, the military, but not have any chance to experience the different aspects of life? Maybe because I'm just not into the military. And it was very American military. And I don't like military movies. I say that. I love films like Apocalypse Now, Platoon, Jarhead, Full Metal Jacket, 1914, is that 1914? 1917. Dunkirk. I like war films.
well, my dear, but you are quoting the classics. You are quoting the milestones in war movies.
Well, yeah, like they're all Papillon. Like, all these are great war movies, and they're always not about the war of the military. It's actually about the human cost of war, but also human perseverance during war. It's about the best and the worst of humanity in that situation, and they're all fantastic films. What I don't like is when military turn up in other genres, because they're all like, oh, I'm the military, I'm just going to shoot everything, and they're always portrayed in this light that, like, you can just shoot all your problems in their way or the highway, and you're always like, oh, it's like, I watched a no-brainer movie the other day. I watched Rampage, which has The Rock in it, and it's a giant monkey fighting a giant alligator and a giant mutant wolf in the city, and it's not clever, but it's fun with a few drinks, and I was kind of like, I'm enjoying it, and then of course the military rolls in, and they're like, oh, this is military jurisdiction, and we're just gonna drop a bomb on it, and it's up to The Rock and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character to kind of go, quick, and I'm like, why did the military just turn up and be like, we shoot everything and we talk weird and we think we're better than everybody? So immediately when it was military school, I was like, oh, they're all going to be up their own asses, and they're all going to be that really, really mean-spirited machoism, and it's going to be really chauvinistic, and it's going to be all like, oh, we're military, we're better than women, we're better than dweebs, we're better. And lo and behold, it did that within about 10 minutes. The guy was like, oh, girl, do push-ups like a man, and she did it, going, yeah, no, girls can do push-ups. Oh, you're a daughter. And it's like, no, he's just an entitled bully. He's just a child that probably would have grown up and been a criminal, but now he's been given the tools and the power and the okay to torture and be and like just and be bad. It's like, no. His superior should be like, you shouldn't be letting people do this. You shouldn't be beating people. You shouldn't be making like a guy from, I don't know if he was Jewish ethnicity, that kind of like background,
Yes.
like just because he's from a different ethnic community and has a different sense to your American bravado, you make him a slave. I'm like, come on, guy, this is stop. He's literally acting like a Nazi. You've allowed like a white supremacist teenager to act like a Nazi. And maybe it was trying to make a point of it. And maybe it was like, ha ha ha, like, yeah, you know, this guy's a Nazi. But it's like, I don't find it funny. I find it cruel. And I'm like, his death wasn't satisfying enough for me, because it just wasn't. But they also did loads of things, like the guy who was in charge of the military was all like up his own ass. And then they had that character that was definitely coded as a paedophile, because he was all excited about touching boys' hair and sniffing their hair and taking pictures of boys and putting them all over his like barber shop. And I'm like, I don't need paedophile coding in this to know, like, why am I watching a child's play movie that has Nazis, bullies, pedophiles in it? I'm like, that's not what I want from my child's play movie. I just want, it would have been better off if Andy was just in a juvenile detention centre and the doll got in, and in the juvenile detention centre there might have been some bullies and stuff, because it's a juvenile detention centre. It's for like, you know, but then the kids work together to stop the doll, and the adults don't believe them because they're like, you are just delinquents. And so and then the bully has that change of heart moment when they realize that actually the doll, and maybe he shouldn't be such a shit person, maybe he should, like, you know, and also it's okay to still hang on to some part of your childhood and your innocence and not try and grow up too fast. And they work together to take out Chucky and also get revenge on the adults that are mistreating them, because they think they're just, you know, the scum of society and never going to make it anywhere. Like, that would have worked. I would have accepted the tropes in that setting. I don't accept the tropes in a film that this is military academy, which is something that in America is an inspiring thing. And I'm like, what is an inspiring thing that's basically full of Nazis and paedophiles? And I was like, I don't like this setting. I'm just going to ignore the setting. I'm just going to wait for Chucky to turn up and start murdering everybody I hate, which is mostly everybody. And yeah, again, animatronics, puppeteering, phenomenal. His voice acting, Brad Dourif was fantastic in this. And I also, when doing some research for this, turns out this is Brad Dourif's least favourite movie in the entire franchise, which I can see why, because it's the worst so far. Yeah, some of the deaths are fun, but then it all goes just weird. It's like, I don't want to see war games of Chucky in the middle of it, like, you know, having like characters that didn't deserve to be killed off in such a disrespectful manner. I'm like, no, that's a disrespectful death. It's one thing to be like, oh, here's a character you like and they die. It's like, no, that just seems mean-spirited. This film seemed mean-spirited about it, but then I suppose it decided to give us, like, you know, pedophiles and Nazis. I'm going to keep saying that because it really just, I didn't like the tone, and I just didn't like the vibe of this movie, and it annoyed me. But I still love Chucky. And then I spent a lot of this movie trying to analyse it. Like, I was round about 10 and 11 when the James Bulger case happened in the UK. So I remember seeing it on the news and not quite registering it, but it was in the public eye for a while. So as I got a little bit older, kind of like, I remember bits and bobs from it. I also remember like being about 12, 13, and trying to get the Child's Play movies rented from the local video shop because they had them on VHS. And then I remember we were getting them. We got one and two, and this is why I never saw the third one because it. I thought it had been banned. But what happens with the James Bulger case was it was basically James Bulger was two shopping with the mum. The mum looked away, and James had been abducted. Turns out it was abducted by two 10-year-old boys who then tortured and mutilated him and left him on the train tracks. Now, the court case to try and get them, I don't know, in insanity court or something, said that the boys had been watching the Child's Play movies, and in particular Child's Play 3, as part of the reason they did this is they watched this movie and it turned them into torturers. And they did the acts inspired by what they had seen on screen. Now, at no point in this movie does it show children torturing and mutilating anybody. It doesn't even really show, like, Chucky torturing and mutilating people. Like, the deaths are pretty quick. Like, they're just... But, so the film was not banned like I thought, but the outcry was so huge because the newspapers started reporting violent movie caused the death of a child that it got recalled. So all the video shops and stuff all decided to take it off the shelves and stuff, and it didn't reappear in the UK until 2000, the year 2000, when that's when it was released on DVD. By that time, everybody had kind of forgotten about the case. But it got proven in court that the dad of one of the kids, who they were separated from the mum, had rented Child's Play 3. But the son had not been at his place at the time of the murders, so it was like, well, there was no chance that the kid would have watched the movie. So that just basically Child's Play 3 got this really bad stigma when actually it wasn't involved in the case whatsoever. The add-on to this, that added to it, there was another case of a woman being kidnapped called Suzanne Capper. And her kidnappers like tortured and tried to murder her, and they thought they'd left her for dead, but she somehow survived and recounted like what they did to her. And one of the things is they had a voice recording from the movie that said, "Hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play?" And the torturers would play that voice clip over and over and over to her, so that every time she heard Chucky going, "Hi, wanna play?" she would like freak out because she's got severe PTSD left over from this situation. So that's why the movie kind of got a bad rap as well. But again, it's like the people who decided to commit that crime didn't do it because they saw Child's Play 3. They did it because they already had whatever issues and whatever had created their own monsters within them. And they used that voice clip because they were attracted to it. There was bigger problems.
There is no amount of movies you can watch, or video games you can play, or books you can read that will explain how to 10 years old can think about kidnapping, torturing, and killing at 2 years old. So once again, no, people, you are responsible for your own actions. Is like when we talk about triggers. If I tell you that a book, a movie, a game can trigger you, and I explain to you how and why it can, and then you decide to still play, watch, or read this whatever, then it's your own fault if you get triggered. You don't get to blame anyone else. If you go outside your house and you kidnap and torture and kill people, don't you dare to blame anything else but yourself. That's something that really pisses me off. So, yeah, I can come out as harsh, but no, don't you dare to blame anyone or anything else.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I think when I think about these 10-year-olds is that they may have had learning difficulties, special educational needs, because these things, I mean, and I can say this as someone who works in a special educational needs school, who specialises in behavioural problems in children, and has seen the effect of children who are playing video games that they shouldn't at their age, then acting it out in school. And now that's not the video game's fault. That is susceptible young children being exposed to something they shouldn't and not having the full spectrum of like abilities to deal and process that thing and therefore do it in unhealthy manners. Who I blame then is obviously the parents, because I'm sorry, but you should not let your highly susceptible child that you're trying to nurture an environment of emotional stability watch an 18 rated film at the age of 6 and be whining because then they come to school and they when they say things like, well, if you don't let me go to playtime I'll stab you, and I'm like, well, maybe if you hadn't have expected, but parents are like, oh, I mean, as people say, oh, movies never make, it's not the movie's fault that they said that. I'm like, no, it's your fault because things have ratings for reasons. If something's rated 18, it probably means that you don't have the mental faculties to process the images you're seeing in a healthy manner until you have got the emotional maturity and life skills to see it. And some people do mature earlier. Like I saw Silence of the Lambs when I was pretty young, and I thought it was a very good movie. But not. There's so many reasons. So yeah, that's my rant about this, especially since I was preteen during the whole. I remember this case so vividly in the media, and also because at the time me and my friend were being a bit naughty and were trying to rent the films at about the age of 11 or 12, and then the third one just disappeared, and we were like, oh no, we can't get the third one. But I couldn't quite work it out, and then obviously I found out later. But it was interesting re-going through it and then watching the movie and going, there's nothing in this movie that would inspire that particular form of violence. And also it's just so, the movie's so American in the fact that it's all like, yay, guns. And I'm like, oh, I don't like guns. Not in that way. There are attractive and fun ways to use firearms within movies and within cool action set pieces. I love The Matrix, but The Matrix is a very different beast, It's it's essentially gun porn. It's not realistic portrayals of weaponry, It's something else. This is a weird movie. I don't know, just didn't sit right with me. Plus, I really hated the kid in it. I think more so than Andy. Because I'm like, if you're at military school and you literally stole someone's parcel and it's like, it's mine now. I'm like, no, you opened someone's mail and kept it. Child, you are a thief.
Indeed. And adult people around you allow you to be like that. They even encouraged those kids to become bullies. And that's not right. It's simply not right. I can't think about anything good to say about this movie if we don't talk about Brad Dourif, who was amazing like always, and I adored not the opening scenes because that was a little bit too much. I mean, you really didn't realize that when you grabbed some melted plastic, it was bleeding. It didn't sound strange to you, really. Okay. I don't know in what kind of factory you actually worked, but it sounded a bit strange to me. But what I adored close to the beginning of the movie is when Chucky is reforged once again, and he screams, and that's Brad Dourif voice because it's unique, and you are like, fucking hell, that was a great beginning and a great way to tell people you are back. And yes, except for Brad Dourif and Chucky, I really don't have anything good to say about this movie.
No. Well, when Brad Dourif says it's the worst of the series and he didn't like it, it's not Yeah, it's not a great thing. But you're right, that opening, I love how clever and they make the reforging of Chucky. Because I'm like, they can't bring him back this time. They can't. But no, they crush the corpse, and obviously, like, his essence is alive because blood is the essence of humanity after the soul. And it mixing in, and then it pouring upwards, and the scoring is fantastic. And then it reforms the plastic mold of the face, and then it screams. And you know that, like, that breath of life is also so painful and it's like wow. And then they went to military school and I was like, I don't like this anymore. And then I hated the ending. Like, I think because back then it was a trope, a lot of 90s films, like the big showdown in the amusement park. But I think I'm kind of over it. So I kept trying to be like, just imagine I'm watching this for the first time back in the day. I probably would be more excited by the, like, they're in the House of Mirrors. But, like, they literally did that in the recent It film. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a horror movie trope that you have to end up at, like, the carnival where everything's a bit disjointed and crazy and no one believes it's a monster because everyone's wearing, like, masks anyway. So I was a bit like, oh, I suppose it
No.
had to happen. It's a staple of the genre. But I think because I was already being annoyed by, like, weird military tactics and then playing war games in the middle of the night and grenading a kid that really didn't deserve it and, like, having just really annoyance and the kid stealing a toy and then being like, oh, like, oh, you can't have it back. I'm like, you stole it, child. You have absolutely no right to that thing. You literally stole it. That you have no idea about Andy's backstory. That could have been a present from his mother, and you were just like, oh, I like it. I'm going to keep it. Like, that's just not how it works. Like, so by the time they were like, and now we're in the crazy place. Although saying that, like, they do that in series 2 of Doom Patrol, but it was brilliant in Doom Patrol. They'd use the setting way better. Like, this one was just a bit generic and then a bit, like, weird. And I feel like Chucky's death was a little anticlimactic in this one. It wasn't as cool a climax. Yes, it had the, like, you've got to kill him at least 3 times because he's going to keep coming back. But I was like, what is the point of setting the whole thing in the military? They should have just gone balls deep, like, firing squad, shooting him. Like, if they were going to use that setting, why suddenly go, we've just set the whole thing in military school, let's do the fairground setting? And I'm like, huh? Wait, no, you've got a perfectly good do the whole thing that the kids hang out in the armory. They get all the, like, weapons and stuff, and they're like, right, it's time to, like, it's time that Chucky was the prey. I was like, let's stalk Chucky, and then Chucky's just like, oh my god, being shot at and stuff, or Chucky coming out strapped with guns, going just going mental and shooting everybody because he's like, because I can see him, tiny little doll, all the semi-automatic weapons, just being like, and everyone going, oh god, we should have believed Andy when we said there was a killer doll loose in the school. And gleefully everyone's going,
That would have been a lot better than what we watched,
yeah,
honestly. Yeah. Thank God for Brad Dourif because it was
yes,
the only thing that allowed me to reach the end of the movie. But it was painful. Yes, it
yes,
was painful.
it was
And it
painful.
left me very salty.
Yeah,
No, no, no. Is like Friday the 13th. At some point, having the main villain coming back to life times and times again, it gets old.
yeah,
So, yeah. And how many more movies we still have to watch in this franchise?
I think 4.
Oh, as
Yeah,
I
but
said,
it's about to get fun now. I get a feeling it's gonna be, like, so bad it's funny, because I'm sorry, like, I can't remember which one's next in it. I don't know. I think it's Bride of Chucky is the next one. I'm just like, I am down to seeing how they evolve this storyline.
yes, yes, I want to see that because I know one title and I need to reach it. The Seed of Chucky. Come on,
Yeah.
people. The Seed of Chucky. If Zoe doesn't have anything else to say,
No, I think I've ranted mostly about this film, but I will make a recommendation because after this movie, um, I'm a massive X Files fan, and I know Brad Dourif is in an episode of X Files, but I went back and I rewatched Brad Dourif's episode in series one, Beyond the Sea. Boy, is it a good episode. I mean, for a show, it's like, I mean, it's over 20 years now. I mean, and I rewatch X Files all the time because I'm obsessed. But the episode is beautiful. Like, it's interesting storyline. It's harsh. It's scary. Like Gillian Anderson's performance is, it's when you start realizing that they had a really like amazing actress on their hands in her. She's brilliant in it, and her interactions with Brad Dourif's character, and it's just like, and yeah, Brad Dourif. Oh goodness, his acting, the way his emotions, his contortions, his insanity, his oh. Oh, and he's just like a death row inmate and has those couple of scenes where every time he's on screen, completely steals the show, completely shows how he's so broken on the precipice of madness, at the same time like terrified of what's going to happen to him, but also kind of understanding the supernatural element, but having this, oh, he's so many layers he brings to that role. And yeah, so instead of Child's Play 3, go and watch Beyond the Sea, the episode from series 1 of The X Files. Fantastic example of just how good Brad Dourif's performances are.
I will. I will do for sure because I love Brad Dourif and I adore the X Files. So, yeah, why not? People, if you are smart, you will do what Zoe just said. For now, thank you for listening and see you next time. Bye bye.
As always, Gaia, it is a pleasure, and I'll see you next time. Bye, byes.